Hey everyone, my name is Marlon Lopez, and I'll be presenting on the transitional lookup buffer, which is a faster way to access memory. And this is for CS 161 at UCR, summer of 2025. So the motivation behind this is for each access to memory, the processor must translate a virtual address into a physical address. So in order to do this, it could either go through a big page table, or it could go through a small fast cache of recent translations known as the translation lookup buffer. You can think of this as a phone contact list. So say you search for a name, that'll be the virtual address, and your phone dials the actual number, which is the physical address. A little bit of background. Some key concepts are going to be the virtual address, which is just the address space visible to a program, a process, and the physical address, which is the actual location in memory. Virtual memory creates another layer of addressing that lets the system protect processes, share memory safely, and have the ability to use more memory than what's physically available on your system. The problem that this addresses is going to be, like I said, not enough memory. A program may request more memory than whatever your installed memory can provide. Fragmentation, so free space is scattered. So it makes it hard for new programs to find fitting inside of this fragmentation. Without this separation, we have programs that can overwrite or corrupt each other's data. So this virtual memory is useful as we save memory on the disk. It allows for contiguous data in virtual space, even though the actual physical memory is fragmented. And this also gives us private address spaces where each process runs in isolation. From a little bit from the background, we could see that once we want to translate these virtual pages into physical, we don't always want to look through this big table if there's some translations that we frequently use. So that's what the TLB is for. It's just a small cache of recently used translation in order for you to quickly get to the physical address space. An analogy I'd heard used was that of studying. So think about you're studying for a math exam and you have your math textbook next to you and you're looking for a particular formula. The first time, you'll scan through your math book until you find the appropriate formula, and you might want to jot down the page number so that way you can quickly access it again, which is basically how the TLB works. So how this works is that you have a virtual page number, then you'll look it up in the transitional look-aside buffer if it's in there, and if so, then you have the physical page number and the permission associated with that. Here we have an example of a 16-entry TLB table where the parameters are as following. We have a page size of 2048 bytes or 2 to 11 bytes. We have a virtual address width of 19 bits and a physical address width of 18 bits. And then we are shown our TLB and the page table. So how it works is we're giving a virtual address, and from that virtual address, it's made up of the virtual page offset bits, the virtual page number, and it's translated into the physical page number, where the offset bits are the same on both sides. So from this, we can conclude that the virtual page offset, we know it to be 2 to the p, which is going to be 11 in this case, and we can quickly find the virtual page number bits and the physical page number bits by subtracting them off to their respective counterparts. Here I have a small script that demonstrates this. So as you can see, let's say we have the virtual address in hexadecimal, that is 4044. When we analyze this virtual address, we see the virtual page number and the virtual page offset, as we know which bits are which. So from this, we can look at the transitional look-aside buffer and see that 8 is in fact in our buffer. So we find quickly the physical page number, and we also see the valid bit, which is on. So if we were to write or read, we would write to the physical address 0A044. So here we have another example where we see that the virtual page number is 0 and the virtual page offset is 5E2. From the virtual page number, we go back to the table and we see that it is not in our buffer. So then we would have to go through our table. So it is in our page table, so we get a hit and we find the physical page number to be 27 with a valid bit. Depending on how your OS implements this, we'll update the buffer accordingly. So it could either be first in, first out, or it'd have some other type of method to do this. So as we saw, when the TLB gets a hit, it'll translate it almost immediately. Otherwise, it'll have to go through this page table, and it could walk through potentially hundreds and thousands of cycles looking for the appropriate page translation. Here we have another kind of walkthrough of how this works. The program issues the virtual address. We check the TLB. If it hits, we get the physical page. If not, we go through the whole page table in memory and we verify permissions. And then we can form the physical address and access the cache. So the operating system is going to be maintaining these page table, and it decides what to keep in memory. Kind of like how I stated earlier, it depends how the OS is implemented. One popular way is to do first in, first out. So as the name suggests, the first translation in cache is out, and we append this new translation in the end. Here we have another visualization of how the virtual address space are private. Each process gets its own frame, and the OS maps this into the physical memory frame. Some real-world applications are operating systems, like I said earlier. We have security, as we don't want injection attacks or faults on illegal access, where the OS will enforce this policy at the page level. We also have gaming or emulation, where you load a new level. Specifically for emulation, the first time you play a level or a game, it's going to be loading up the shader cache. And you might notice the game to be extremely slow and laggy, but that's because the shader cache is building up. Then as you play this game more and more, your shader cache will build up and it'll lead to a smoother experience. Some games, they like to ship with the shader cache some already filled up, so that way there's not too much loading, but then you're shipping this game with that takes up a lot of data since you sent it with this cache already filled. So as we saw, this transitional look-aside buffer is the way the processor can fastly index from virtual pages to physical frames. So it lets us have quick speeds, even though we might have some big, large page table. So that was pretty much my presentation, everyone. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, or if you'd like to check out the calculation script I had up, I don't mind setting that out as well. Thank you guys. Have a good one.